Good evening all, and welcome back to Farcical Fears. The x-rays showed something moving inside the suitcase. A TSA agent opened it and found human remains still warm. Flight attendants counted 157 passengers, but the manifest showed only 156. Security cameras recorded a man walking the tarmac for 72 hours straight. Every night at 3:17 a.m., the same boarding call for a passenger who died 2 years ago. Gate 66 has been sealed since 1994 when they found the maintenance crew. Body cam footage shows the entire cleaning crew walking through solid walls. The little girl in seat 12A knew details about my dead daughter. Radar tracked someone on the active runway, but visual confirmation showed nothing. He was trapped in duty-free for what felt like hours. 4 days had passed. Every major airport has one sealed terminal they don't talk about. These are 10 true airport horror stories with witness testimony and evidence. Airlines paid millions to bury these. You're about to hear what they're hiding. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to Farcical Fears for daily true horror content that will keep you up at night. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when the darkness calls. Let's begin. Story number 1. The Thing in Luggage. Jamal Williams' hands were shaking as he stared at the X-ray monitor. Something inside the suitcase was moving, not shifting from turbulence, not vibrating from electronics. Moving, like it was breathing. His supervisor, Marcus, leaned over his shoulder and went pale. Call TSA police, now. When they cut open the locks, the smell hit them first. Then they saw the fingers pressing against the fabric from inside. But what happened next changed everything. Let me take you back 6 hours. Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International, March 15, 2018. Jamal had been working TSA baggage screening for 11 years. He'd seen everything. Guns wrapped in clothes, drugs stuffed in shampoo bottles, even a live python once. But nothing prepared him for Flight 847's checked luggage. The suitcase came through on the conveyor belt at 2:47 p.m. International arrival from Sao Paulo. It looked normal. Black hard-shell Samsonite. Except the weight was wrong. The tag said 32 pounds. His scale read 47. That's when he sent it through the X-ray. The first scan showed dense organic matter. That wasn't unusual. People packed meat, cheese, all kinds of food. But organic matter doesn't have a skeletal structure. Jamal zoomed in. There were bones, human bones. His mouth went dry. He scanned it again from a different angle. That's when he saw it move. Just slightly. A shift in the ribcage area, like something expanding and contracting. His trainer had told him about cadaver smuggling. Families trying to bring bodies home without paying for proper transport. But those bodies didn't move. He pressed the emergency call button. TSA police arrived in 4 minutes. They evacuated the screening area. Bomb squad protocols. Jamal watched from behind the barrier as they used bolt cutters on the locks. The suitcase wasn't just locked. It was sealed with industrial adhesive around the seams. Someone had tried to make it airtight. When the lid finally opened, 3 officers stepped back simultaneously. Inside were human remains, but they'd been packed in dry ice and cooling gel. Preserved. The movement Jamal saw? The dry ice was still sublimating, still creating pressure. But that's not what made them call the FBI. Underneath the false bottom were documents, shipping manifests, addresses, photographs. This wasn't a family bringing home their deceased relative. This was an organized smuggling operation. Organs. The remains had been surgically harvested. Multiple victims. The cooling system was sophisticated. Medical grade. Whoever packed this suitcase knew exactly what they were doing. The destination address on the luggage tag? A closed medical clinic in Atlanta, The FBI traced it back to an international organ trafficking ring operating in 12 countries. The suitcase Jamal scanned. It was one of 47 that had successfully made it through in the past 18 months. Jamal couldn't work screening for 6 months. Every suitcase made him nauseous. Every organic shape on the X-ray made his hands shake. TSA implemented new protocols, random weight verification, thermal imaging for temperature anomalies. But here's what keeps Jamal up at night. During those 18 months before they caught it, he'd been working that same checkpoint. How many had he missed? How many suitcases had he waved through because the wait seemed close enough? Because he was tired? Because it was just another Tuesday? He still works at Atlanta, different position now, and he still watches those X-ray monitors. But what he saw that day changed everything. Story number 2. The passenger who wasn't there. Rebecca Townsend counted the passengers 3 times. Row by row, seat by seat, 157 people on United Flight 1947 from Boston to Seattle. But the manifest clearly showed 156. She radioed the cockpit. "We have an extra passenger. Seat 23C. He's not on the list." The captain's voice came back confused. "That's impossible. The gate scanned 156 boarding passes. Are you sure?" Rebecca looked directly at the man in 23C. Middle-aged, gray suit, reading a newspaper, completely ordinary, except according to every system they had, he didn't exist. But what she discovered in the flight records changed everything. June 12, 2021. Flight 1947 was routine. Rebecca had flown this route 40 times. She knew the procedures. Final head count before closing the cabin door. Match the count to the manifest. Simple. She started at row 1. Business class passengers glanced up as she counted. Economy was fuller. Families, business travelers, students with headphones, everything normal until row 23. The man in 23C looked up when she passed, made eye contact, smiled politely, completely unremarkable. Except when she finished counting and checked her clicker, the number was wrong, 1 extra. Rebecca asked the man for his boarding pass. He handed it over without hesitation. United Airlines, Flight 1947, Seat 23C, departure time matched. Everything looked legitimate. But when she scanned the barcode with her handheld device, nothing happened. Error message, invalid ticket. The man seemed confused. "I checked in at the gate. The agent scanned it. I watched her do it." Rebecca radioed the gate agent. "Did you board a passenger for 23C?" Long pause. Negative. 23C was a no-show. Seat remained empty. Rebecca looked at the seat. The man was still sitting there, still holding his newspaper, still existing. The captain came back to look. He saw the man. Other passengers saw the man. The person in 23B had been sitting next to him for 20 minutes. They'd made small talk about the weather. But the gate records, the manifest, the reservation system, all showed seat 23C vacant. They delayed takeoff. Ground crew boarded. Security reviewed the boarding footage. And here's where it gets worse. The security video showed 156 passengers boarding. They watched every person scan their pass and enter the jetway. They counted 156. The camera angle showed seat 23C clearly, the entire boarding process. The seat stayed empty. No one sat down. No one put a bag in the overhead. Empty. They asked the man to stand, asked for his ID. He provided a driver's license. Thomas Brennan, address in Seattle. The ID looked real, felt real. But when they ran it through their system, nothing. No passenger by that name on any flight. No reservation, no ticket purchase. The man was getting agitated. "I don't understand what's happening. I bought this ticket 3 weeks ago. I have the confirmation email." He pulled out his phone to show them. But when he opened his email app, it was blank. No messages, no inbox, nothing. His confusion looked genuine. The other passengers were getting nervous. Someone suggested calling the police. But what happened next changed everything. They decided to deplane everyone and sort it out at the gate. Standard protocol for unverified passengers. Rebecca stayed with the man while the captain made the announcement. Passengers groaned but started gathering their things. Row by row they exited. When they got to row 23, Rebecca turned to ask the man to come with her. The seat was empty, not just empty, untouched, no impression on the cushion, no warmth. The newspaper he'd been reading? Gone. The passenger in 23B stared at the empty seat. He was just here. We were talking. He told me about his daughter's wedding in Seattle. He was just here. The flight eventually departed. 156 passengers. Seat 23C remained empty. But here's what the investigation found. Thomas Brennan was a real person. He had booked flight 1947. 3 years earlier, June 12, 2018. Seat 23C. The flight crashed on approach to Seattle. Everyone died, including Thomas Brennan. The boarding pass the man showed Rebecca, it matched the one from the crashed flight. Exact flight number, same seat, same date, just wrong year. Rebecca doesn't fly that route anymore, and United Airlines quietly retired Flight 1947. The number doesn't exist in their system now. But Rebecca still sees him sometimes, in airports, walking through terminals, always reading a newspaper, always heading to Gate 23C. And she's not the only flight attendant who has. Story number 3, 72 hours in Terminal C. David Park woke up on a bench in Terminal C and couldn't remember falling asleep. The terminal was completely silent. No gate announcements, no rolling suitcases, no footsteps. Just the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. He checked his phone. 3:47 a.m. He'd volunteered to stay overnight during the snowstorm. The airport had shut down. Everyone else had taken shuttle buses to hotels. But David's connecting flight was early morning. He figured he'd just wait it out. That was 8 hours ago. But what happened in those next 72 hours would make him question everything he thought was real. December 18th, 2020. Chicago O'Hare. The blizzard hit harder than forecasters predicted. 2 feet in 6 hours. All flights grounded. David had been traveling from New York to Los Angeles for his sister's wedding. The terminal was chaos. Thousands of stranded passengers, screaming children, frustrated ticket agents. Then the announcement came. Airport closing until morning. Shuttle buses to nearby hotels, free accommodation. But the lines were massive. David did the math. By the time he got a bus, checked in, and returned, it would be time for his rescheduled flight. He told the gate agent he'd stay. She looked at him strangely. "You sure? It gets weird here at night when it's empty." He laughed it off. He'd regret that. By midnight, the terminal had cleared out. Security, cleaning crews, staff, everyone gone. David had the entire concourse to himself. At first, it was peaceful. He stretched out on the bench, charged his phone, scrolled through social media. Then he noticed the shops. The metal security gates were down, standard procedure. But inside one of them, he saw movement. Just a shadow passing behind the gate. He sat up, stared. Nothing. Probably just his tired eyes playing tricks. He lay back down. Then he heard it. Footsteps, dress shoes on tile. Click, 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 coming from behind him. He turned around. The concourse stretched empty in both directions. The footsteps stopped. David stood up. His heart was pounding. "Hello?" His voice echoed down the empty terminal. No response. He walked toward the nearest bathroom. Needed to splash water on his face. Wake himself up. The bathroom lights flickered when he entered. One of the stalls was closed. He could see feet underneath. Someone else had stayed behind. "Hey, you all right in there?" No answer. He pushed the stall door. It swung open. Empty. But the toilet seat was warm, like someone had just been sitting there. He backed out of the bathroom quickly. That's when he heard the announcement. "Final boarding call for passenger David Park, gate C47. This is your final boarding call." His blood went cold. There were no flights. The airport was closed. He ran to gate C47, his gate, the one his original flight was supposed to depart from. The boarding area was empty. The departure board showed his flight. On time. Boarding. But that was impossible. He could see through the windows. The tarmac was buried in snow. No planes, no ground crew, nothing. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Hello?" Static. Then his own voice. "Don't go to the gate. Don't go to the gate. Don't go to the gate." The call disconnected. He was shaking now. He needed to find security. Find someone. Anyone. He started walking, but something was wrong. He'd been in Terminal C for hours. He knew the layout, but nothing looked right anymore. The gates were in the wrong order. C32 next to C18. C9 across from C44. Impossible. He passed a coffee shop he'd bought from earlier, but the sign was different. The name was different. He looked closer. Through the security gate, he could see someone behind the counter, making coffee at 3 a.m. in a closed airport. The person looked up, made eye contact. It was him. David was looking at himself making coffee in an empty shop. He ran. Didn't know where, just ran. That's when he found the luggage. Old luggage, sitting by a gate, covered in dust. He checked the tags. 1987. The leather was cracked. The locks were corroded. But the bags looked like they'd just been set down. Like someone had just walked away and never come back. His phone buzzed. Text message from his sister. "Where are you? Wedding's in an hour." He stared at the message. That didn't make sense. The wedding was in 3 days. He texted back. "What's the date?" Her response made his stomach drop. "December 21st. Are you okay?" He checked his phone. She was right. December 21st, 2020. 3 days had passed. He'd been in this terminal for 72 hours, but it had only felt like one night. He heard voices now. Multiple voices. Coming from every direction, announcements overlapping, boarding calls, security warnings, all at once. All calling his name. He covered his ears, closed his eyes, and screamed. When airport security found him the next morning, he was catatonic, sitting in the middle of Terminal C, staring straight ahead, not responding. They called paramedics. At the hospital, David couldn't explain what happened. Couldn't explain where he'd been for 3 days. Security footage showed something impossible. David sitting on the same bench for 72 hours, not moving, not eating, not drinking. But here's the part that haunts the investigators. The footage showed David getting up 17 times, walking to different parts of the terminal. But every time he walked, he'd walk straight into a wall, into solid concrete. And he'd just stand there, pressed against the wall, like he was trying to push through it, like he thought there was something on the other side. David missed his sister's wedding, spent 2 weeks in psychiatric evaluation. They said stress, sleep deprivation, hallucinations brought on by exhaustion. But David knows what he experienced, and he's not the only one. Airport records show 6 other people who volunteered to stay overnight in Terminal C during weather closures. All of them found catatonic. All of them missing chunks of time. All of them described the same things. Footsteps, announcements, shops with people inside. And all of them saw themselves. Their own reflections doing things they weren't doing. Terminal C still operates. Thousands of passengers pass through every day. But if you're ever stranded at O'Hare during a storm, take the hotel shuttle. Don't stay overnight, because Terminal C remembers everyone who does, and it doesn't like to let them leave. Story number 4. The announcement. Sarah Martinez heard her name echo through the empty terminal. Final boarding call for passenger Sarah Martinez. Please proceed to gate 27. This is your final boarding call. She froze. Her flight wasn't until morning. It was 3:17 a.m. The airport was closed. No flights were boarding. But the announcement repeated, louder this time, more insistent. Final boarding call for passenger Sarah Martinez. She looked around the deserted terminal. Every shop was dark. Every gate was empty. And then she realized something that made her blood run cold. Sarah Martinez wasn't her name anymore. She'd gotten married 5 years ago. That was her maiden name, the name she used when she died. Let me go back 2 years. August 14th, 2022. Los Angeles International Airport, Terminal 4. Night shift supervisor Dennis Chen was doing his rounds when he heard it for the first time. 3:17 a.m. exactly. Final boarding call for passenger Sarah Martinez. Please proceed to gate 27. He checked his system. No flight scheduled. No Sarah Martinez on any manifest. He radioed security. Did you hear that announcement? They had. Every guard on duty heard it. Crystal clear. But when they checked the PA system logs, nothing. No announcement had been made. The system showed no activity. Dennis figured it was a glitch. Some recording stuck in the system. He made a note for maintenance and finished his rounds. But what happened next changed everything. The announcement came again the next night. Same time. 3:17 a.m. Same message, same name, same gate. Dennis was ready this time. He stood at the PA control room, watched the system during the announcement. The speakers activated. He heard the announcement clearly, but the system showed nothing. No input, no trigger, nothing. It was like the voice was coming from the speakers without any electronic signal. Maintenance came in the next day, tore apart the PA system, replaced components, updated software. That night, 3:17 a.m., the announcement played again. Word for word, exactly the same. They tried disconnecting the speakers at gate 27. The announcement still played, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Dennis started researching. Sarah Martinez, gate 27, August 14th. He found it in the archived incident reports. August 14th, 2020. Exactly 2 years ago. Sarah Martinez had been booked on a red-eye flight departing from gate 27, but she never made it to the airport. Her Uber was hit by a drunk driver on the 405. She died instantly. Her boarding pass was still in her purse when they found her. But here's what disturbed Dennis. The flight she was supposed to catch? It crashed 40 minutes after takeoff. Everyone on board died. Sarah Martinez's name appeared on the initial passenger manifest. The airline had to issue a correction. She wasn't on the plane. She died before she could board. But her name was called at the gate that night. Final boarding call. Right before the plane pushed back. Dennis thought maybe it was some kind of recording. A memorial? Someone's sick idea of a tribute? But the airline had no record of it. No one had authorized any announcement. And it kept happening, every single night. 3:17 a.m., same announcement. He started asking other night shift workers. Had they heard it before he noticed it? The answers made his skin crawl. A janitor said he'd been hearing it for 18 months. A security guard said she'd heard it since she started working there. 2 years ago, right after Sarah Martinez died. Dennis checked the logs. The first report was from August 15th, 2020, the day after her death. The announcement had been playing every single night for 2 years, and everyone just assumed someone else knew what it was. Dennis decided to go to Gate 27 during the announcement. See what happened. Maybe get some answers. August 20th, 2022, 3:15 a.m. He positioned himself at Gate 27, watched the empty boarding area. The departure board was dark, no scheduled flights. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the announcement began. Final boarding call for passengers Sarah Martinez. Please proceed to Gate 27. This is your final boarding call. He was standing right there. The voice surrounded him. But something else happened. The departure board flickered on. Flight 447 to San Francisco. Boarding, Gate 27. That was Sarah's flight, the one that crashed. The gate door opened by itself. Not all the way. Just slightly, like someone had triggered it from inside. Dennis approached carefully, looked through the window into the jetway. Empty. Dark. But he felt air. Cold air. Coming from the jetway. Like the door to the outside was open. But that was impossible. There was no plane. He stepped into the jetway. The door closed behind him. He spun around. Tried the handle. Locked. The lights flickered on. Emergency lighting. The jetway stretched ahead of him. But it was longer than it should be. Much longer. He started walking. The cold air got stronger. He could hear something now. An engine. A plane engine. Getting louder. At the end of the jetway, he saw a light. Cabin light. There was a plane there. He could see passengers in their seats. A flight attendant was closing the overhead bins. Dennis reached the end of the jetway. The flight attendant turned around. Her name tag said Sarah Martinez. She smiled at him. We've been waiting for you. He backed away. I don't have a ticket. She kept smiling. You're on the manifest now. Dennis ran. Back down the jetway. It was longer going back. Much longer. He could hear the flight attendant behind him. Final boarding call. He slammed into the door. It opened. He fell out into the gate area. 2 security guards were standing there. You okay, man? You're white as a sheet. Dennis looked back at the jetway door. Closed. Locked. No cold air. He checked his watch. 3:19 a.m. 2 minutes had passed, but he'd been in that jetway for at least 15 minutes. The guard said they'd seen the door open by itself. Saw Dennis standing at the threshold. Then he'd just fallen backward. They hadn't seen him go inside. From their perspective, he'd just been standing there, frozen, for 2 minutes. Dennis requested a transfer the next day. Different terminal, different shift, anything to get away from Gate 27. The airline approved it immediately, like they'd been expecting it, like they knew. The announcement still plays, every night. 3:17 a.m., Sarah Martinez, Gate 27, final boarding call. The airline has given up trying to stop it. They just warned night shift workers not to go to Gate 27 during the announcement. Don't stand too close. Don't enter the jetway. Because 3 other employees have. 2 of them came back. Changed. Wrong somehow. They quit within a week. Wouldn't talk about what they saw. The 3rd employee never came back. They found his ID badge on the floor of the jetway. His name was added to the manifest of Flight 447. 2 years after the crash. The airline quietly settled with his family. And now, every night at 3:17 a.m., there are 2 announcements. One for Sarah Martinez and one for Michael Torres. both calling them to Gate 27, both telling them it's their final boarding call. And the list keeps growing. Story number 5. Gate 66 Protocol. Linda Vasquez found the sealed door on her 3rd day as airport manager. Gate 66, Dallas-Fort Worth International. The door was bolted shut, chains wrapped around the handles. A faded sign read, "Structural maintenance, do not enter." But the construction permit had expired in 1995, 27 years ago. She asked her assistant director about it. His face went pale. "We don't talk about Gate 66, and we definitely don't go inside." Linda laughed. "That's ridiculous. I need to inspect every gate in this terminal. Get me the keys." He shook his head. "There are no keys. That gate hasn't been opened since October 1994. And if you value your job, your sanity, and your life, you'll leave it alone." But what Linda discovered in the archived files would make her wish she'd listened. Linda wasn't the type to accept vague warnings. She'd managed 3 major airports before Dallas. She'd dealt with union disputes, security breaches, and terminal evacuations. A locked gate didn't scare her. She went to maintenance, demanded the keys. The maintenance supervisor, a man named Earl who'd worked there for 30 years, actually laughed. Not a friendly laugh. A bitter, knowing laugh. "You're new. You don't understand. Gate 66 protocol means we don't open that door, ever. We don't even walk past it after dark if we can help it." The last manager who tried to open it, she resigned 2 weeks later. Didn't give notice, didn't pack her office. Just left her keys on the desk and walked out. Haven't seen her since. Linda crossed her arms. "I'm not afraid of ghost stories. Get me bolt cutters." That night, Linda went through the archived incident reports in the basement records room. The files were old, paper documents, not digitized. She found the folder marked Gate 66, October 1994. Inside were witness statements, medical reports, police incident summaries, and photographs that made her stomach turn. On October 12, 1994, a maintenance crew of 4 was assigned to repair ventilation issues at Gate 66. Standard overnight work. They entered at 11 p.m., signed in with security. The gate door was closed and locked behind them per protocol. Their shift supervisor checked on them at midnight. They radioed back, everything normal. At 1 a.m., security tried to radio for a routine check-in. No response. At 1:30 a.m., the shift supervisor went to investigate. But what happened next changed everything. The gate door was still locked from the outside, chains in place. But inside, complete silence. The supervisor unlocked the door. The scene he found was impossible. All 4 maintenance workers were dead, but there wasn't a mark on them. No injuries, no blood, no signs of struggle. They were positioned throughout the gate area. One was sitting in a passenger seat. One was standing at the window, facing the tarmac. One was lying on the floor in the jetway entrance. One was crouched in the corner, hands over his ears. Their eyes were open, mouths frozen in silent screams. The medical examiner's report was inconclusive. Cause of death, unknown. No heart attacks, no strokes, no toxins in their systems. Their hearts had just stopped, all 4, at the exact same time. Time of death, 1:17 a.m. But that wasn't the worst part. The security cameras had been recording. Linda found the footage in the evidence archive. She watched it alone in her office. At first, everything looked normal. The 4 men working, checking ducts, testing equipment. Then, at 12:47 a.m., they all stopped simultaneously, turned toward the window, staring at the tarmac. One of them pointed. The others backed away slowly. On the footage, there was nothing outside, just empty tarmac, runway lights in the distance. But the men saw something that terrified them. They started backing toward the gate door. One of them tried his radio. His mouth moved, but Linda couldn't hear audio on the silent footage. Then they all looked up, at the ceiling, and the terror on their faces was absolute. They scattered, running to different parts of the gate, like they were trying to hide or escape. But from what? The camera showed nothing. No intruder, no smoke, no fire. Just 4 men, experienced maintenance workers, reduced to panic. Then, at 1:17 a.m., they all stopped moving, just froze in place. The man at the window slowly raised his hand, pressed it against the glass. The man in the corner covered his ears and crouched down. The man in the jetway entrance lay down on the floor. The man in the seat sat down calmly. And then nothing. They just stayed in those positions, not moving, for 13 minutes, until the shift supervisor opened the door and found them dead. Linda felt sick watching it, but she kept going through the files. There were other incidents. In 1997, a security guard doing overnight rounds reported seeing movement inside Gate 66. Through the window in the locked door, shadows moving past the windows, he called for backup. When they opened the door to investigate, nothing, empty gate. But the guard's body camera had recorded something. Footsteps in the dust on the floor, fresh footsteps, multiple sets, walking in circles around the gate area, but no one was there. In 2003, a cleaning crew was accidentally assigned to Gate 66. No one had updated the sealed gate in the work order system. They opened the door. All 3 cleaners were found unconscious 30 minutes later. When they woke up in the hospital, they all told the same story. They'd entered the gate and heard announcements, boarding calls, hundreds of them, overlapping, all calling different names, all for flights that didn't exist. Linda made her decision. She was going inside Gate 66, not with bolt cutters, not with security, alone. She needed to see it for herself, understand what everyone was afraid of. October 19th, 2022, 28 years to the week after the maintenance crew died. Linda got the keys from Earl. He tried one last time to stop her. Please, I've worked here since 1989. I knew those men who died. They were good men, experienced, not afraid of anything. Whatever is in that gate, it's not something you can manage or control or explain away in a report. Some doors stay closed for a reason. Linda took the keys. I'll be fine. I'll radio every 15 minutes. Earl just shook his head. No, you won't. 3 a.m. Linda stood outside Gate 66. The chains had been removed earlier that day. The locks were old but functional. She radioed security. Going in. Start the timer. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. The gate looked normal, dated. The carpet was from the 90s. The seats were an old model no longer used. But everything was clean, preserved, like it had been frozen in time. She walked to the window, looked out at the tarmac. Empty, just like it should be. She turned on her flashlight and walked toward the jetway entrance. That's when she heard it. A voice, coming from the PA speakers. Now boarding Flight 847 to Denver. All passengers, please proceed to Gate 66. She froze. There was no power to this gate. The PA system had been disconnected in 1995. The announcement continued. Passengers in rows 1 through 15, you may now board. Linda backed toward the exit, but the door was closed. She hadn't closed it. She tried the handle, locked. Her radio crackled. She grabbed it. Security, I'm locked in. I need you to open the door from outside. Static. Then a voice. Her own voice. Don't go to the jetway. Don't look at the tarmac. Don't listen to the names. The radio went dead. Linda's hands were shaking now. The The gate lights flickered on, all of them. Bright, fluorescent lights flooding the space. The departure board activated. Flight 847 to Denver. Boarding. Gate 66. That was a real flight. From 1994. The flight that was scheduled to depart from this gate the night the maintenance crew died. Linda heard footsteps behind her. She spun around. The gate was filled with people, passengers, dozens of them, standing in line at the jetway entrance, waiting to board. They weren't moving, just standing there, facing forward. She could see through them, translucent, like projections. But they had shadows. Her flashlight beam passed through their bodies, but their shadows stayed solid on the floor. One of them turned to look at her, a woman in a business suit. Her mouth moved. "Are you boarding?" Linda shook her head, couldn't speak. The woman smiled. "You should board. We've been waiting so long. The plane is here. Can't you see it?" Linda looked out the window. There was a plane on the tarmac now. A DC-10, an old model, the kind they stopped using decades ago. The engines were running. She could hear them, feel the vibration through the floor. The jetway was extended, connected to the plane, but that was impossible. There was no plane there 5 minutes ago. The passengers started moving forward, filing into the jetway one by one. Orderly, calm. The woman looked back at Linda. "Last call. After this, the gate closes. Forever." Linda ran to the window, pressed her hands against the glass. Outside, she could see ground crew moving around the plane, loading luggage. But they were wrong too. See-through. Ghosts, shadows, memories of something that happened, or was supposed to happen. Her phone buzzed. She looked down. Text message from her own number. "You've been inside for 6 hours. Get out now." 6 hours? That was impossible. She'd been inside for maybe 10 minutes. She checked her phone. 9:47 a.m. No, that couldn't be right. She'd entered at 3 a.m. The gate door suddenly opened. Security guards rushed in. "We've been trying to open this door for 6 hours. The locks wouldn't work. We had to get a welding torch to cut through." Linda looked around. The passengers were gone. The plane was gone. The lights were off. Just an empty, dark gate, and her standing in the middle of it, looking insane. They took her to the airport medical center, gave her water, checked her vitals, asked her questions. What happened inside? What did she see? But here's what they didn't tell her until later. The security footage showed her entering Gate 66 at 3 a.m., standing in the middle of the empty gate, not moving, for 6 hours and 47 minutes, just standing there, staring at the tarmac window, her lips moving, having conversations with people who weren't there, nodding, shaking her head. At one point, she walked to the jetway entrance and stood there for 30 minutes, like she was watching people board. But the camera showed nothing. Just Linda, alone, in an empty gate, acting out both sides of interactions with ghosts. Linda resigned 3 weeks later. She tried to stay, tried to convince herself it was stress, exhaustion, some kind of breakdown. But she couldn't walk past Gate 66, couldn't even look at it. And worse, she started hearing the announcements, in her office, in her car, at home. Now boarding Flight 847 to Denver. Always at 1:17 a.m., the time the maintenance crew died. She moved to Houston, got a job in hotel management, far away from airports. But on October 12th every year, the anniversary of those deaths, she hears it. The announcement, calling passengers to Gate 66. And sometimes, late at night, she gets text messages from her own number, messages from inside that gate. "You're on the manifest now. Final boarding call. Gate 66 remained sealed. The new airport manager didn't ask questions, just accepted it as part of the job. Don't open Gate 66. Don't ask why. Earl retired last year. On his last day, he left a note for the incoming maintenance staff. Gate 66 protocol. Keep it locked. Keep it chained. Don't investigate the sounds. Don't respond to reports of lights or movement. That gate is feeding on something. Memory, time, reality. Whatever it is, we can't stop it. We can only contain it. 4 men died learning that. Don't let there be more. The note is filed with the official operations manual now. Gate 66 protocol is official airport policy. And if you're ever walking through Dallas-Fort Worth at night and you hear a boarding call for Flight 847, don't follow it. That flight has been boarding for 28 years. And everyone who boards never reaches their destination. Story number 6. The cleaning crew tape. Carlos Mendez watched the body camera footage 3 times before he believed what he was seeing. His entire cleaning crew, 5 people he'd worked with for years, walking straight into solid concrete walls. Not stumbling, not confused, walking deliberately, like the walls weren't there, like they could see something on the other side. The timestamp showed February 8th, 2023. Miami International Airport, Terminal J night shift. It was supposed to be routine. Empty terminal. Standard cleaning protocol. 6 hours to sanitize 47 gates before morning flights. But what that body camera recorded would force the airport to implement new safety measures. Measures they couldn't explain to the public. Because how do you tell people that their airport has doors that don't exist? The body cameras were Carlos's idea. After a worker claimed she'd been assaulted during night shift, management required all overnight crew to wear them. Liability protection. Carlos didn't mind. His crew were professionals. Nothing to hide. February 8th started like any other night. 11 p.m. Carlos and his team of 5 clocked in. Miguel, Ana, Jerome, Patricia, and newbie Tyler. Tyler was on his 2nd week. Young kid. Needed the money for college. Carlos paired him with Miguel. Learned from someone experienced. They split up. 2-person teams. Carlos did quality checks. Standard procedure. At 1:30 a.m., Carlos radioed for check-ins. Miguel and Tyler, Gate J15. Good. Ana and Jerome, Gate J31. Good. Patricia was doing the restrooms near J40. Good. Everyone accounted for. But what happened in the next 15 minutes would change everything. At 1:47 a.m., Carlos got a call on his radio. Patricia. Her voice was shaking. Carlos, there's something wrong with the hallway near J40. The maintenance corridor. It looks different. Carlos frowned. Different how? Long pause. There are more doors. Doors that weren't here yesterday. I walk this route every night. These doors are new, but they look old. Really old. Carlos sighed. Probably just tired. Night shift played tricks on your mind. I'm coming to you. Stay put. He started walking toward J40. That's when he heard Miguel scream over the radio. Not a word. Just a scream. Then silence. Carlos ran. He found Miguel's cleaning cart abandoned at Gate J15. Supplies scattered. The mop bucket was overturned, water spreading across the floor. But no Miguel. No Tyler. He grabbed his radio. Miguel, Tyler, respond. Nothing. He checked Miguel's last known position on the crew tracking app. The GPS dot showed Miguel was still at Gate J15, right where Carlos was standing. But there was nobody there. He called Ana and Jerome. Get to J15 now. We have a situation. While he waited, Carlos noticed something strange. The gate door to the jetway was slightly open, but jetway doors locked automatically. Required a security badge to open. He approached carefully, pushed it wider. The jetway was dark. Emergency. Lights only. He called into the darkness. Miguel? Tyler? If you're playing around, it's not funny. Anna and Jerome arrived running. What happened? Carlos pointed to the open jetway door. They went in there, I think. Jerome pulled out his phone, used the flashlight. The three of them entered the jetway together. It was empty. Just the long corridor connecting the terminal to where a plane would dock. Except there was no plane. Just the closed door at the end, leading to nothing. But halfway down the jetway, they found Tyler's body camera, lying on the floor. The record light was still blinking. Carlos picked it up. We need to watch this. Now. They went back into the terminal. Carlos connected the camera to his tablet. What they saw on that footage made Anna start crying. The video showed Tyler's perspective, walking with Miguel, cleaning seats at gate J15, normal conversation. Miguel was teaching Tyler how to properly sanitize armrests. Then, at 1:46 a.m., Miguel stopped mid-sentence, stared at the jetway door. Tyler's camera caught Miguel's face. His eyes were wide, fixed on something. Do you see that? Miguel asked. Tyler's voice on the recording. See what? Miguel walked toward the jetway door. The people. There are people boarding. We need to help them. The flight is leaving. Tyler followed. Miguel, there's no flight. The airport is closed. But Miguel wasn't listening. He opened the jetway door, started walking down the corridor. Tyler followed, clearly confused. The camera showed the empty jetway. But Miguel was walking like he was navigating through a crowd, saying "excuse me" and "pardon me" as he moved, stepping around obstacles that weren't there. Halfway down the jetway, Miguel stopped, turned to face the wall, the solid concrete wall of the jetway. He reached out and touched it. Then he smiled. This way. The gate is through here. And he walked straight into the wall. Not ran, not stumbled, walked. Like it was a doorway. His body hit the concrete and he just kept walking. Pushing forward. The camera showed his body pressing into the solid wall. And then he was gone. Not through it. Just gone. Like the wall had absorbed him. Tyler screamed, dropped the camera. The footage showed the camera lying on the jetway floor, capturing Tyler's shoes as he backed away. Then Tyler ran. The camera recorded his footsteps, getting quieter. Then nothing. The camera just recorded the empty jetway for 3 minutes. Until Carlos picked it up. Carlos immediately called airport security. They arrived with paramedics and airport police. While they were setting up a search, Patricia radioed. Her voice was barely a whisper. Carlos, Anna and Jerome are gone. Carlos felt ice in his stomach. What do you mean, gone? Patricia was crying now. We were all together, looking at the doors I told you about. The maintenance corridor. Anna touched one of the door handles, said she heard something on the other side. Jerome tried to stop her. She opened the door. It was just a closet, cleaning supplies, normal. But then she walked inside, and Jerome followed her. I tried to grab him, but he just walked in. I looked inside after them. Carlos, the closet was empty. Just supplies. They weren't there. They walked into a closet and disappeared. Airport security pulled all the body camera footage. All 5 crew members were wearing them. They watched Patricia's camera. It showed exactly what she described. Anna opening a maintenance closet door, walking inside, Jerome following. The camera angle showed the inside of the closet, mops, buckets, shelves, and no people. Anna and Jerome had walked into a closet and vanished. They checked Anna's body camera. It was still recording, still transmitting. Her GPS showed her location as the maintenance closet, but the video feed showed something impossible. Anna's camera showed her walking down a long corridor. Institutional lighting, concrete floors, doors on both sides. It looked like a service tunnel. But Miami International didn't have service tunnels in that area. Jerome was behind her, his voice on her camera. "Where are we? This isn't right. We need to go back." Anna tried to turn around, but the corridor behind them was longer now. Much longer. They walked back the way they came, walked for what the timestamp showed was 4 minutes, but the corridor just kept going. Jerome started panicking. "This doesn't make sense. We walked maybe 20 feet into that closet. Where are we?" They passed doors, unmarked metal doors. Anna tried one, locked, tried another, also locked. Then they heard something. Footsteps, coming from ahead of them. Multiple people, walking toward them. Anna's camera caught shadows on the walls, getting closer. But when they reached the point where the shadows were, nobody was there. Just empty corridor. But the footsteps continued, all around them now, walking past them, around them, but completely invisible. Security was watching this in real time. Anna's camera was still transmitting. They could see what she was seeing. One of the officers made a decision. "We're going into that closet. Full gear. We're bringing them back." 6 security officers geared up. Carlos watched as they opened the maintenance closet door. Just a closet. They went inside one by one, checking every inch. Nothing. Just a small closet. Maybe 6 feet deep. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to go. But Anna's camera showed her and Jerome still walking through an endless corridor. One of the security officers in the closet waved his flashlight around. On Anna's camera, for just a split second, they saw a light, far ahead of them in the corridor, like a flashlight beam. "Did you see that?" Anna yelled. They started running toward the light, but it disappeared. Then Miguel's camera came back online. It had been offline since he walked into the jetway wall. Now it was transmitting again. The feed showed Miguel walking through a terminal, but not Miami's terminal. The architecture was different, older. The gates had numbers, but they didn't match any terminal layout Miami had. Gate X1, X2, X3. Gates that didn't exist. Miguel was alone, calling out, "Hello? Anyone? I need help." He walked past gates. Some had planes visible through the windows. But the planes were wrong. Old models. Types that hadn't flown commercially in decades. And the tarmac outside looked wrong too. The angle was impossible. Like he was looking at a tarmac that existed in a different space. A different version of the airport. Tyler's camera came back online. Different location. Tyler was in a bathroom. But not a bathroom in Miami International. The fixtures were different. Old white tile. The design was from decades ago. He was sitting in a stall, crying, talking to himself. "This isn't real. This is a dream. Wake up. Wake up." He kept repeating it. Someone entered the bathroom. Tyler went quiet. The camera showed the bottom of the stall. Feet walked past. But they were walking in the wrong direction. Walking sideways, then upside down, walking on the ceiling. Tyler screamed, started banging on the stall door. But when he opened it, the bathroom was empty. And the door to the hallway was gone. Just a tiled wall where the door had been. Security made the call. Evacuate Terminal J. They couldn't explain why. Made up a gas leak, got everyone out, locked down the entire terminal. Brought in specialists, airport engineers. They checked the maintenance closet, took measurements. Everything was normal. Solid walls, no hidden passages, no doors that shouldn't be there. They went into the jetway where Miguel disappeared. Same thing, solid walls. No anomalies. But the body cameras were still transmitting. All 5 crew members. Still online, still recording. Still showing them in impossible places. Walking through versions of the airport that didn't match reality. Carlos watched the feeds for hours. Unable to help, unable to reach them. Just watching his crew slowly lose their minds in whatever spaces they'd fallen into. At 6 a.m., 4 hours after they disappeared, something changed. Anna's camera showed the corridor she was walking through start to flicker. Like bad television reception. The walls became transparent. She could see through them. See the real terminal on the other side. See security officers walking past. They're there. They're right there. She started screaming, banging on the walls. But the officers didn't react, couldn't hear her. Then the corridor solidified again, became real. And Anna collapsed, just fell to the ground, crying, giving up. Jerome sat down next to her. "We're not getting out, are we?" Anna shook her head. The camera showed them sitting in that impossible corridor, defeated, broken. At 9:17 a.m., 7 hours after they disappeared, Miguel's camera showed something that made everyone watching go silent. Miguel had found a gate with people. Passengers sitting in seats, waiting to board. He approached them. "Please, I need help. I'm lost." The passengers turned to look at him. Their faces were wrong, blurred, like they weren't completely there. One of them spoke. "You can't leave. You're here now. You walk through the door. The airport keeps what walks through." Miguel backed away. Started running, but every gate he passed had the same passengers, same blurred faces, all turning to watch him, all saying the same thing. "You can't leave." At 11:43 a.m., 9 hours after they disappeared, the cameras started going offline. First Tyler's, then Jerome's, then Patricia's. The last feeds showed them all in different locations. Tyler in the impossible bathroom. Jerome and Anna in the corridor. Patricia in what looked like a baggage claim area with conveyor belts running endlessly with no luggage. Then their feeds cut to static. Miguel's camera stayed online the longest. The last thing it showed was Miguel sitting at a gate. Gate X47. Staring out the window at a plane that was both there and not there. His voice, quiet and resigned. "I'm going to board. Maybe that's how I get out. Maybe that's how I go home." The camera showed him standing, walking to the jetway. The automatic doors opened. He walked inside. The doors closed. And the feed went to static. The cameras were never found. The crew members were never found. Airport security sealed Terminal J for 2 weeks. When they reopened it, they implemented new protocols. No cleaning crews smaller than 8 people. Always stay in groups of 4 minimum. No one enters jetways during overnight shifts. All maintenance closets in Terminal J were welded shut. Officially labeled structural hazards. The families were told there was an accident, a collapse in a service area. Bodies couldn't be recovered. The airport settled quietly. Millions in compensation with non-disclosure agreements. Carlos quit the next day. Couldn't work there anymore. Couldn't walk past those gates, knowing his crew was somewhere. Still walking, still trying to find their way out. Still trapped in whatever version of the airport they'd fallen into. But here's what haunts Carlos the most. Sometimes, late at night, his phone gets a notification. A text message from Miguel's number, or Anna's, or Tyler's. Just 3 words. "Still here. Help." And attached is always a photo. A blurry image of a terminal. Gates that don't exist. Passengers with no faces. And in the background, always in the background, Carlos can see them. His crew. Still walking, still searching, still trapped in the airport that doesn't let go. Story number 7. The unaccompanied minor. Michelle Roberts saw the little girl standing alone at gate 34, and her heart broke a little. 8 years old, pink backpack, stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms, no parent in sight. Michelle checked her tablet. No unaccompanied minor listed for any flight. She walked over with her best friendly smile. "Hi, sweetie. Are you flying alone today?" The girl turned to look at her. Her eyes were the exact same color as Michelle's daughter's eyes. The daughter who died 3 years ago. And that's when everything went wrong. April 17th, 2021. Saturday morning. Gate 34 was scheduled for a 10:15 a.m. departure to Phoenix. Michelle noticed the little girl around 9:45 a.m. just appeared. Michelle didn't see her walk up. One moment the gate area was full of adults. The next moment there was this child, standing perfectly still. Michelle went into protocol mode. Unaccompanied minors were supposed to be escorted by airline staff. There was paperwork, guardian signatures. This girl had appeared out of nowhere. She approached the girl, knelt down. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl smiled. "Emma." Michelle's vision blurred. Emma. That was her daughter's name. She steadied herself. "Where are you flying to today, Emma?" The girl tilted her head. "I'm going home, to see Mommy. She misses me so much. She cries every night." Michelle felt cold spread through her chest. "Where's your boarding pass, honey?" Emma held out a piece of paper. "Standard boarding pass. Flight 2847 to Phoenix. Seat 12A. Departure 10:15 a.m. Except the date was April 17th, 2018. 3 years ago. Michelle scanned the barcode. Error. Invalid ticket. Not in the system. But what happened next changed everything. Michelle radioed her supervisor. While she waited, she tried to keep Emma comfortable. "Are you traveling alone?" Emma looked at her with those heartbreaking, familiar eyes. "Mommy put me on the plane. She said I'd be safe in the sky, but I never got to Phoenix. The plane went into the water. It was cold. So cold." Michelle's hands started shaking. April 17th, 2018. Flight 2847 to Phoenix had crashed. 40 minutes after takeoff. Went down in Puget Sound. Everyone died. All 157 passengers, including 12 children, including Michelle's daughter, Emma. Her supervisor, Karen, arrived. Michelle handed over the boarding pass. Karen's face went pale. "Michelle, today is the anniversary. 3 years to the day. What is this?" Michelle grabbed her arm. "I didn't do this. She's real. You see her, right? My daughter was on that flight. This girl has the same name, the same eyes." Karen called security. 2 officers arrived. They saw Emma. When one tried to approach her, Emma backed away. "I don't want to go with them. I want to stay with Mommy." The officer reached for her arm. His hand passed through her, literally through her, like she was made of air. He pulled back, shocked. "What the hell?" Emma started crying, real tears. "I don't understand. I just want to go home. I want my Mommy. I've been in the water. But sometimes I can come back. When it's the anniversary, I can come back for a little while. Please don't make me go back to the water. It's so cold there. And I'm so alone." Michelle was sobbing. Reached out to hold her daughter, but her arms closed on nothing. Emma was there, but not solid, not real. A ghost. Emma followed Michelle. "Don't leave me again, Mommy. You left me before. You put me on the plane and I died." Michelle turned, knelt down. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I thought I was keeping you safe. I thought sending you ahead was the right thing." Emma smiled through tears. "It's okay, Mommy. It didn't hurt. But then I woke up in the water and you weren't there. We're all floating, all the passengers, all the children, in the cold, dark water. And we couldn't leave. We're still there, Mommy. We're still in the water. Emma started to flicker, fading in and out. I can't stay much longer. The anniversary time is ending. But I needed to see you. To tell you it wasn't your fault. The other children from the flight, all 12 of us, we're still in the water. We stay together. But we're so cold. Michelle was shaking. How do I help you? Emma's form was barely visible now. You can't. The water keeps us. The airport keeps calling us back. Every anniversary we appear at different gates, looking for our parents. But we can never leave. We can never really come home. Emma disappeared completely. The security footage showed everything. Airport administration sealed it immediately. But word spread among staff. On April 17th every year, 12 children appear at different gates throughout Seattle-Tacoma International. Always the same children, always looking for their parents. The cameras capture it every year. But the airport denies everything. Michelle took leave but came back. Every April 17th, she works gate 34. Waits at 9:45 a.m. Because Emma comes back. For 15 minutes, they talk. Emma tells her about the other children in the water. Then she fades, back to the cold water. Other parents learned. They come on April 17th. Wait at different gates. The airport doesn't interfere anymore. It's an unofficial memorial. Michelle knows Emma will never be free. But for 15 minutes every year, she gets to be a mother again. Gets to say, I love you. I'm sorry. And Emma smiles and says, I know, Mommy. I'll see you next year. Then she's gone. Back to the water. Back to waiting. When the airport lets them come home. Just for 15 minutes. Just long enough to break their parents' hearts all over again. Story number 8. The Tarmac Walker. Stephanie Wu stared at her radar screen and blinked hard. The blip was still there. A person. Walking across runway 28R at San Francisco International Airport at 3:17 a.m. She grabbed her radio immediately. Tower to ground security. We have an individual on runway 28R. Active runway. Repeat person on active runway. Within seconds, emergency protocols activated. All aircraft on approach were diverted. Ground security vehicles screamed toward the location. But when they arrived, their radios crackled back, confused. Negative contact. Runway is clear. No one here. Stephanie looked at her screen. The blip was still there. Still walking. Steady pace. Heading directly toward the center of the runway. But what happened over the next 7 nights would make airport security question everything they thought they knew about their facility. July 19th, 2022. Stephanie had been an air traffic controller for 9 years. She knew what radar ghosts looked like. Birds, weather interference, system glitches. This wasn't any of those. The signature was human-sized, human-paced, walking in a straight line. She called her supervisor. He came to her station, saw the blip. Could be equipment malfunction, but we can't take chances. He ordered another security sweep, 3 vehicles, thermal imaging, the works. They drove the entire length of runway 28R. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But on Stephanie's screen, the blip walked right past them. The security vehicles reported they saw nothing. No heat signatures, no movement, just empty runway. But what happened next changed everything. At 3:42 a.m., the figure on radar stopped, right in the center of the runway, where the main landing zone was. Then it just stood there, for 3 minutes. Stephanie watched, heart pounding. What is it doing? Her supervisor shook his head. I don't know. Keep tracking it. Then, at 3:45 a.m., the blip started moving again. But not walking, moving fast, like it was running, sprinting toward the edge of the runway. And then it vanished, just disappeared from radar. Stephanie checked all her systems. Everything was functioning normally. The blip was just gone. They filed an incident report, chalked it up to technical anomaly. But the next night, it happened again. July 20th, 3:17 a.m. Same runway, same blip, same walking pattern. This time they were ready. Security positioned at both ends of the runway. Cameras focused on the area. Night vision equipment. The blip appeared on radar exactly where it had the night before. Started walking the same path. Security reported visual contact with nothing. Cameras showed empty runway. But radar showed a person walking. They tried a different approach, sent a vehicle to drive directly toward the blip's position. Intercepted. The security officer drove straight to where radar showed the figure. His radio crackled. "I'm at the coordinates. There's nothing here. But it's cold. Really cold. Like I just drove into a freezer. My breath is fogging. It's July. This doesn't make sense." Stephanie watched on radar as the blip walked right through the security vehicle. The officer reported a sensation. "Something just passed through my truck. I felt it. Like pressure. Like someone brushed past me. But I see nothing." The blip continued walking, reached the center of the runway, stopped for exactly 3 minutes, then ran toward the edge and vanished. Same pattern, exact same timing. This happened every night for a week. Same time, same runway, same behavior. Always starting at 3:17 a.m., always vanishing at 3:48 a.m. 31 minutes, every single night. The airport brought in equipment specialists, checked every radar system, found nothing wrong, brought in electromagnetic field experts, environmental sensors. Nothing explained it. On the 7th night, July 25th, they tried something different. Set up high-speed cameras along the runway. If something was there, the cameras would catch it, even if human eyes couldn't. 3:17 a.m. came. The blip appeared on radar. Cameras recording, security watching monitors. The footage showed something impossible. For just a few frames, maybe a tenth of a second, there was a figure. A man, wearing what looked like a maintenance uniform, walking across the runway. Then he'd flicker out, become invisible again, then flicker back for another fraction of a second, like he was phasing in and out of visibility. The cameras captured maybe 20 frames total over the 31 minutes. But those frames were enough. They enhanced the images, ran them through facial recognition, got a hit. Gregory Mason, airport maintenance worker, reported missing 2 months earlier, May 15th, 2022. He'd been working overnight shift, went out to check runway lights, never came back. His truck was found abandoned near runway 28R. No sign of him, no body, no evidence of what happened. Just gone. Security footage from that night showed him driving toward the runway at 3:14 a.m. His truck stopped. He got out, walked onto the runway with his equipment. And then, at exactly 3:17 a.m., he just stopped, stood still, like he was listening to something. Then he started walking, purposefully, toward the center of the runway. Security had tried to radio him, no response, started driving toward him. But before they could reach him, Flight 624 appeared on approach. Emergency landing, mechanical issues. No time to wave off. The security footage showed Gregory standing in the landing zone. The plane coming in, security screaming on the radio for him to move. But he just stood there. Looking up, the plane touched down, right where Gregory was standing. The footage showed the moment of impact. But here's what made no sense. When the plane rolled past, when security reached the spot, there was no body, no blood, no evidence anyone had been hit. They searched everywhere. Checked the plane, checked the landing gear, nothing. Gregory Mason had vanished the moment the plane touched down. like he'd never been there at all. But on the tower radar that night, archived footage showed the same blip, a person standing in the landing zone, and then disappearing the moment the plane made contact. Now, 2 months later, Gregory was back, walking the same path every night, starting from where his truck had been found, walking to the center of the runway, standing in the exact spot where the plane had touched down, then running toward the edge, trying to escape, trying to get away from something, replaying his last moments over and over. Stephanie realized what she was watching. Not a person, not a glitch, a recording. Reality itself had recorded Gregory's final walk, and now it played back every night. At the exact time it happened, the airport brought in paranormal investigators. They confirmed electromagnetic anomalies on runway 28R, concentrated at the center, where Gregory had vanished, where the plane had touched him. Something about that moment, that impact, had burned Gregory's final minutes into the fabric of the location itself. The airport couldn't shut down runway 28R. Too much traffic, too important. So they adapted. Every night at 3:17 a.m. for 31 minutes, they reroute all traffic, use different runways. They tell pilots it's maintenance. Don't mention the ghost on radar. Don't mention Gregory Mason walking his eternal path. Stephanie transferred to day shift. Couldn't handle watching him anymore. Watching that blip appear, walk, stop, stand in the place where he died, then run, always running, trying to escape, but never making it. Just vanishing at 3:48 a.m. Only to reappear the next night at 3:17 a.m., starting over, walking toward his death again, over and over, forever. Or at least until someone figures out how to break the loop, how to let Gregory Mason finally leave runway 28R. But so far, nobody has. And the radar blip keeps walking, every night, while security watches, while cameras capture fractured images, while reality plays back the recording of a man who walked onto a runway and never walked off. Story number 9, the duty-free loop. Hiroshi Tanaka checked his watch for the third time. 2:47 p.m. He'd been browsing the Dubai International duty-free shopping area for what felt like 20 minutes. 6-hour layover. Plenty of time before his connecting flight to Tokyo. He picked up a bottle of cologne, checked the price, put it back, walked toward the exit. But when he reached the corridor, he was back at the entrance. The same entrance he'd walked through 20 minutes ago. Same perfume display, same promotional banner. He turned around confused. Maybe he'd gotten turned around. Big airport, easy to get lost. He started walking again, following the exit signs clearly marked overhead. 2 minutes later, he was back at the entrance. Same perfume display, same banner. And that's when he realized something was very wrong. November 8th, 2020. Hiroshi was traveling from London to Tokyo. Business trip. The Dubai layover was long, but he didn't mind. He'd heard the duty-free shopping was incredible. Terminal 3, massive duty-free zone. Luxury brands, electronics, gold. He'd entered around 2:30 p.m., just browsing. Killing time. The area was huge. Multiple sections. Perfume, cosmetics, alcohol, chocolate, designer bags. He wandered through them casually. But after that third time ending up at the entrance, he stopped walking. Stood still, tried to make sense of the layout. The duty-free zone was large, but it wasn't a maze. It was essentially a long corridor with shops on both sides. One entrance, one exit, straight path. Impossible to loop back unless you deliberately turned around. But he hadn't turned around. He'd walked straight, following exit signs, and ended up back at the start. But what happened over the next 4 days would make him question his sanity. He tried again. this time paying close attention. Walked past the perfume section, past cosmetics, past the chocolate displays. The exit should be ahead. He could see the sign. Exit to gates. He walked toward it. 30 seconds of walking. Should reach it. But the sign stayed the same distance away, like a horizon that moved as he approached. He walked faster. The sign didn't get closer. He started jogging. Other shoppers looked at him strangely. He ignored them. Focused on the exit sign, ran toward it. After 2 minutes of running, his lungs burning, he stopped. The exit sign was still the same distance away. He turned around. He was back at the entrance. Same perfume display, same banner. This time he noticed something. The promotional banner was advertising a sale. November 8th is special. That was today. But the products on display looked dusty. The banner was faded, like it had been hanging there for months. Hiroshi approached a saleswoman at the perfume counter. "Excuse me, where's the exit?" She smiled. "Just follow the sign, sir. Straight ahead." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. He looked closer. She wasn't blinking, just staring with that frozen smile. "How long have you been working today?" he asked. She tilted her head. "I'm always here, sir. Can I help you find a fragrance?" Something was wrong with her voice. Flat, mechanical. He backed away, looked around. Other shoppers were browsing, moving normally. But when he watched carefully, he noticed patterns. The same woman in the red dress picked up the same bottle of perfume, put it down, walked 3 steps, picked up the same bottle again, exact same movements. Looping. A man in a business suit was looking at watches. Same motion, over and over. Lifting his wrist to compare, putting it down, lifting it again. Hiroshi pulled out his phone. 2:52 p.m. Only 5 minutes had passed. That was impossible. He'd been here for at least 40 minutes. He tried to call someone. No signal, no Wi-Fi. His boarding pass app wouldn't load. He checked his flight time. Gate D7, departure 8:30 p.m. Plenty of time, except his phone clock wasn't moving. 2:52 p.m. He watched it. Watched the seconds. They weren't advancing. Frozen. He started walking again, this time looking for other people. Real people, not the looping shoppers. He saw a family. Mother, father, 2 kids. They looked confused, lost. He approached them. "Excuse me, are you having trouble finding the exit?" The father looked relieved. "Yes. We've been walking for an hour. We keep ending up back here. What's happening?" The mother was close to tears. "Our flight leaves in 2 hours. We need to get out of here." They grouped together, 5 people now. Decided to stick to the left wall, follow it all the way through. If it was truly just a corridor, following one wall would eventually lead to the exit. They started walking. Hiroshi kept his hand on the left wall. Watched the shops pass. Perfume, cosmetics, chocolate, alcohol, watches, electronics, gold. Then back to perfume. They'd made a complete loop, but they'd followed the wall, never turned, never left the wall. Somehow the space had curved. Impossible architecture. The father was angry now. "This is insane. We're calling airport security." He tried his phone. No signal. None of them had signal. They were trapped in a shopping area with no communication, no exit. And time wasn't passing. Hours went by. Or felt like hours. Their phones all showed 2:52 p.m. They tried everything, asking staff who gave mechanical responses, following other shoppers who looped their movements endlessly, even trying to go through emergency exits marked with signs. But when they pushed through the emergency doors, they walked back into the entrance. Same perfume display, same banner. The family's kids started crying. Hiroshi felt panic rising. He approached the perfume counter again. The saleswoman smiled. "Can I help you find a fragrance?" He grabbed her shoulders. "How do we get out?" Her smile didn't change. "Just follow the signs, sir." Her skin felt wrong. Too cold, too smooth, like plastic. He let go and stepped back. These weren't people. They were something else. Props, recordings, like the duty-free zone itself. The mother had a realization. Our flight. We're going to miss our flight. The father checked his phone. Still 2:52 p.m. Maybe time isn't passing out there either. Maybe it's just in here. But Hiroshi didn't think so. He thought time was passing normally outside. They were the ones stuck, trapped in a bubble where time didn't move, where space didn't follow normal rules, where they'd wander forever looking for an exit that didn't exist. He sat down on a bench. The family joined him. They sat in silence, watching the looping shoppers, the smiling staff, the exit signs that promised escape but delivered none. The kids fell asleep, exhausted from crying. Their parents looked hollow, defeated. Then something changed. A sound, an announcement. Final boarding call for Flight 847 to Tokyo. Passenger Hiroshi Tanaka, please proceed to Gate D7 immediately. Hiroshi stood up. That's my flight. It's not for hours yet. My phone says 2:52 p.m. But the announcement repeated. Final boarding call. He looked at the family. I have to try. The father nodded. Go. Maybe you can get help. Hiroshi started running, following the sound of the announcement. It seemed to come from ahead, from the exit. He ran harder than before. And suddenly, like breaking through water, he burst out of the duty-free zone, into the terminal, gate areas, travelers, normal sounds. He gasped, checked his phone. November 12th, 9:17 a.m. 4 days. He'd been in the duty-free zone for 4 days, but it felt like 6 hours. He ran to gate D7, empty. His flight had left days ago. He found an information desk, tried to explain. The agent looked at him strangely. Sir, you've been missing for 4 days. Security has been looking for you. Where were you? Hiroshi pointed toward duty-free. In there. I was trapped. There's a family still in there. We need to help them. Security came, took his statement, checked the duty-free zone, found nothing unusual, checked cameras. The footage showed Hiroshi entering the duty-free zone on November 8th, standing in the middle of the shopping area, not moving, for 4 days, just standing there. Other shoppers walked around him. Staff tried to wake him, called medical, but he didn't respond, just stood there, catatonic, until November 12th when he suddenly started running and burst out. The family he described? Security found them, same thing, standing frozen in different spots, for 4 days, until they woke up, all with the same story, trapped, looping, trying to find the exit. Medical evaluation showed nothing wrong, no drugs, no medical condition, just missing time, missing days. Dubai International sealed off sections of the duty-free zone for investigation, found nothing. But they added emergency protocols. If anyone is reported missing in duty-free for more than 30 minutes, immediate extraction. Don't wait. Because whatever was in that space, whatever loop existed there, it was real. Hiroshi never shopped duty-free. Again, never browsed. He goes straight from arrival to departure gate. No stops. Because he still has nightmares. Of walking endlessly. Of exit signs that move away. Of saleswomen with frozen smiles. Of his phone forever showing 2:52 p.m. Of time stopping while the world moved on. And sometimes, when he's in airports, he sees them. Other travelers. Standing frozen in duty-free zones, not moving, eyes open but not seeing, trapped in the loop, and nobody notices. Nobody helps. They just walk around them until days later when they wake up. Missing time, missing flights, missing pieces of their lives, spent wandering a shopping area that doesn't follow the rules, that doesn't let you leave, until it decides you've paid enough. In hours, in days, insanity. Story number 10. Terminal 0. I need to tell you something that connects all 9 stories you just heard. Something the aviation industry doesn't want public. Something I discovered while investigating these incidents. Every major international airport has one. A sealed terminal, a forbidden gate, a corridor that doesn't appear on maps. They have different names, different excuses for why they're closed. Structural damage, asbestos, ongoing renovation. But the truth is far more disturbing. These spaces exist in a state between functional and abandoned, and they've become doorways to something else. Something that feeds on the liminal nature of airports themselves. Places of transition, places where people exist between destinations, between identities, between one version of their life and another. And in that in-between space, reality gets thin. Let me show you what I found. I started noticing patterns while researching airport incidents. Gate 66 in Dallas, Terminal C in Chicago, Gate 27 in Los Angeles, the duty-free zone in Dubai, Runway 28R in San Francisco. All had documented anomalies. All had unexplained disappearances or encounters. But they weren't isolated incidents. I pulled records from 50 major airports worldwide. Every single one had at least one location with a history. Sealed off, restricted access, official explanations that didn't quite make sense. I created a map, marked every location, and the pattern that emerged made my blood run cold. They were all connected to the same historical event, a Cold War-era program called Project Threshold. Declassified documents from 1967 showed a joint initiative between multiple governments. They were testing experimental radiation screening technology at airports. The threat was nuclear material smuggling. The solution was installing prototype scanners in terminals. These weren't like modern scanners. They used experimental frequencies, wavelengths that could detect atomic signatures. But there were side effects, documented in reports that were immediately classified. Staff working near the scanners reported temporal distortions, seeing passengers who weren't there, hearing announcements for flights that didn't exist, objects moving on their own. The technology was creating tears in local space-time, making the barriers between what was real and what was possible paper-thin. The program was shut down in 1973, officially due to budget cuts. But the real reason was buried in incident reports. At Atlanta's airport, a scanner malfunctioned, created a permanent distortion field. 3 maintenance workers entered the affected area to shut it down. They disappeared. Security footage showed them walking into a solid wall, passing through it like it was a doorway. They were never found. The scanner was removed. The area was sealed. But the distortion remained. The damage was permanent. And it wasn't just Atlanta. 12 airports had similar incidents. Workers disappearing, passengers seeing impossible things. Time moving wrong. Space folding incorrectly. Each location was sealed, declared off limits. But the distortion stayed active, growing, feeding on the transient energy of airports. I found maintenance logs from 1994, Dallas-Fort Worth. They were doing electrical work near Gate 66. Accidentally breached a sealed wall. Behind it was equipment. Old scanner technology from Project Threshold. Still active, still running. Drawing power through unauthorized connections. Creating a field that had been active for 21 years. That's why the maintenance crew died. They walked into an active distortion field, their consciousness scattered across different versions of reality. The airline removed the equipment, but the field persisted, self-sustaining, fed by the millions of passengers passing through the terminal, their liminal energy, their transition states, strengthening the tear between worlds, making Gate 66 a permanent doorway to somewhere else. I interviewed retired airport staff, people who'd worked during Project Threshold. One former security director in Miami told me about Terminal J. We knew something was wrong in the 70s. Staff would quit, say the terminal felt wrong, made them sick, gave them nightmares. But management didn't listen, kept using it. Then in 2003, we had the incident. I asked what incident. He went quiet, then said, "A cleaning crew went missing, vanished during night shift. We found them 3 days later, standing in a maintenance corridor. They couldn't remember where they'd been, couldn't explain the missing time. But their watches had run backward, showed dates from 1972. We sealed that section, made up a story about structural issues. But we knew. The old technology was still affecting the space. Los Angeles had Gate 27. Chicago had Terminal C. Seattle had gates throughout the airport where children appear. Dubai had entire sections of duty-free that looped. San Francisco had runways that recorded the dead. Each location corresponded to Project Threshold installation sites. I found the original maps, matched them perfectly. These weren't random hauntings. These were consequences. 50 years of accumulated damage from technology that should never have been built. Technology that treated the fabric of reality like something that could be scanned and measured. And when you do that, when you try to peer through reality to find hidden threats, sometimes reality peers back. Sometimes it tears. And through those tears, other things come through. I tried to publish my findings, contacted aviation authorities, government agencies, mainstream media. Every door closed. Threats of lawsuits, warnings about national security. One official told me off the record, "You're talking about infrastructure damage we can't fix. Tears in space-time we can't seal." If the public knew that airports, places millions of people pass through daily, are fundamentally broken on a quantum level, it would cause panic. We contain what we can, monitor the distortion zones, prevent civilian access. But we can't fix them. The technology to repair this kind of damage doesn't exist yet. Maybe never will. So we seal the areas, pretend they're under renovation, and pray the distortions don't spread. But they are spreading. Terminal C in Chicago was one gate in 1994. Now it's an entire section. Gate 66 in Dallas has expanded to neighboring gates. Staff report feeling the wrongness spreading. Miami's Terminal J has quadrupled its restricted area. The distortions are growing, fed by the constant flow of transient passengers, people in liminal states, between departures and arrivals, between who they were and who they'll become. That energy feeds the tears, makes them wider, deeper, and more people are falling through. The cleaning crew in Miami, the maintenance workers in Dallas, the passengers who stand frozen in duty-free zones, the children who appear on anniversaries. They're not dead. Not exactly. They're trapped in the spaces between, in the reality that exists inside the distortions. A version of the airport that overlaps with ours but doesn't follow our rules. I'm telling you this because you need to know. When you fly, when you're in airports, pay attention. If a gate is sealed with construction barriers but no workers are present, avoid it. If a terminal section feels wrong, colder than it should be, leave immediately. If you see someone standing completely still for more than a few minutes, not moving at all, don't approach them. They're already gone. already trapped. And if you ever hear your name in an announcement but you're not flying, if you see a gate number that doesn't exist on the departure boards, if time seems to skip or loop, run. Get out of the airport. Don't investigate. Don't try to understand. Just leave. Because Project Threshold never really ended. It just became invisible, woven into the infrastructure of global aviation. And we're all moving through it, every time we fly, every time we transition through these spaces. We're brushing against those tiers, those doorways. And sometimes, some people, they fall through, and they never find their way back. Remember these stories? Remember Gate 66, Terminal C, the duty-free loop? Because knowledge is protection. And the more people who know, the harder it becomes for them to keep hiding the truth. That our airports are broken, have been for 50 years, and might never be fixed.